It is so good to have you joining us on this week's episode of the Boss Hole Chronicles. And when I say us, I mean Sarah and John. Hi, this is John Brewer, your co-host, and I'm joined today by Sarah Best, and we welcome to the podcast Mr. Joe Rotella. I had a chance to hear Joe speak at the Human Resource Association of Central Ohio, based right here in Columbus. Amazing individual. You're going to love today's message, especially those HR professionals, or as we're going to learn, business professionals that specialize in human resources, and the role you can play to help keep managers out of the boss hole zone. Let me tell you a little bit about Joe. Joe is a leading thinker and professional speaker in business strategy, continuous performance management, and HR technology. He is a top-rated speaker for SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and currently he serves as Chief Value Officer for Delphia Consulting, which is a human resource and payroll software consulting firm based right here in Columbus, Ohio. Joe is also the co-creator of Maviva. Maviva is a continuous performance management application. You'll hear more about that, and absolutely check out more of the information in the show notes. But he's got over 30 years of experience in information technology, usability, and human resources. You're going to love hearing from Joe. Let's listen in. The Boss Hole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode. So, Joe, it is so good to see you. Welcome to the Boss Hole Chronicles.
Thanks. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, as our audience knows, I had a chance to meet you at the Human Resource Association of Central Ohio, otherwise known as HRACO, at one of the monthly meetings. And when I heard your message on the air in HR, I thought, oh my gosh, we've got to have Joe on the program because I think this is great stuff. But there is so much more about who you are and what you do. Can we start with the air in HR? I love that acronym,
Sure,
and I thought perhaps that'd be a good place to start.
Not hot air. You didn't think it was hot air, right?
No, and it wasn't hot air. It was very very pleasant air. So,
I think that we are living through the greatest disruption in our workplace that I've seen in generations, or even read about. Geopolitical crisis, social crisis, the evolution of technology, and that volatility level is never going to change. So I think HR folks need to respond to that. And I came up with the acronym AIR to represent agility, innovation, and resiliency. I think those are three things that businesses as a whole are finding to be successful for them, for modern businesses. If you're the old-fashioned, very slow software waterfall company, you're not going to be agile at all. But for right now, I think businesses to survive have to be agile, innovative, and resilient. And I think HR folks can adopt the same principles and just put them in the human capital management space.
Okay.
So that's where that came from.
Outstanding. So take us through that. I mean, how do human capital, human resource professionals actually apply, or give us some examples of how they can look at agility, innovation, and resilience?
So if we start with agile, I think most folks think of the word agile as coming from software development organizations and the tech space. But there's really a set of principles behind it that you focus on customer satisfaction, quality, teamwork, and project management. The problem with human resources management is they typically aren't about being agile. They have very long cycles. They work in yearly or quarterly or annually. There's not always built-in regular reflection. And sometimes they don't do course correction based on evidence. And those are some of the key principles of agile software development. It's short cycles, regular reflection, and course correction that you've based on evidence. And sometimes, and I love my HR peeps, but they're a little squishy. We're not always really good. We're a little squishy sometimes. So instead, if you think about places that you could become more agile, I think HR folks could actually visit with agile teams or part of their own company that they believe is following an agile methodology and see what it's like to do that. I think they could establish a regular cadence for retrospectives to say every week or two, we're going to step out of the business to focus on the business and let's look at what we're doing. And that sort of speed, what are we doing right now that we could do differently to try to do better? Performance management, that's a whole space for me. It's traditionally an annual process. Typically in January, they set goals. And then you do the set it and forget it model, just like the HRACO rotisserie. They take those goals, they set it and forget it, and they sit there till June for the mid-year review.
Right.
Then they haul them out, then they look at them, then they set it and forget it till the end of the year review. That's totally against agile methodology. You need short goals that you're constantly visiting, constantly coaching on, because you're continually trying to sharpen those things. You could look at managers' coaching skills and be agile. Sometimes we don't coach managers at all, right? You promote somebody who's great at making donuts to be the head of all the donut makers. That's sometimes a bad path because they can really micromanage because they used to make the donuts. So they know exactly how to tell you how to make the donuts. And you've never told them, now your focus shouldn't be on the tasks, it should be on the people.
Right.
So do you train folks to be better managers? And I love Alice Johnston's work on, the 4 dimensions of coaching. And another big part of Agile is focusing on teams, not individuals. How many companies now, it's more team oriented, but we still have individual performance reviews and individual one-on-ones. Compensation is always just a yearly thing. That's quite slow. Learning and development. I've met with some employees who said, oh, yes, they helped me with a learning and development plan. That was 2 years ago, and I'm still working on it. I'm like, hasn't anything changed in 2 years? So I think Agile is just that notion of shorter cycles, lots more feedback, lots more reflection. And I think that's a huge culture change in the HR space.
I think you're right. I just spoke to a group here at a conference here in Columbus. And one of the things we talk about, because our world at Real Good Ventures, our world is all about people data, objective data. So let's stop guessing. So to your point, evidence-based decisions, same thing with people. So through, PI and line of sight and fearless organization scan, EQI 2.0, we look to provide or give our clients evidence or objective data about people. But one of the things we talk about is access to data. Quick access to data is the key to agility. But you're looking at it at a different time frame. You're compressing that time frame, and I love that idea of simple, shorter windows to help move that forward and not waiting the traditional 1 quarter, 6 months, or a full year. That makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a sports person at all, but if you think about coaches as an example, when they don't wait till the end of the game to go out and tell the players how you did and what you could do better.
Right.
The whole purpose is you are involved during the game to change the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of HR folks and then the managers that we promote and perhaps maybe don't fully train, they're always worried about the end of the game, the end of the year cycle, the end of the 6-month cycle. It's too late. That's all rear view.
That's right.
And the squishy stuff makes me crazy. And I'm a people person, but I hate to say it, but I always tell HR folks, never identify yourself as an HR professional. That's terrible. From now on, you are a business professional with expertise in HR. And there's a difference. You help an organization achieve its vision by helping find, acquire, recruit, onboard, train, develop, all that stuff, the right talent to execute the mission every day.
Yeah.
And business professionals make decisions based on data. I've never heard a CEO say, we're going to launch a whole new product line because it kind of feels good. So
right.
I don't want to throw out all the people feeling part. I'm not trying to be cold, and I'm an ENFP Myers-Briggs, so my F is way scale high, but I still think you need data to make effective decisions. We need to learn how to collect it frequently, and have access to it in a way that makes sense.
Can we dial back for a second? Because I think what I heard you talking about is what Aaron Dignan, who wrote the book Brave New Work, would describe as an operating system. So the standard calendar-based, just replicable workflow every year, the one that doesn't work, is not the operating system that we need today. And I think we talk about it all the time. I know businesses and even HR professionals recognize this, but maybe the challenge is, how do we shift to a totally different operating system that has that agility, that has, the real-time feedback and the opportunity to connect and shift and tweak and adjust and make better in the moment?
I think you have to start small. I'm not a big fan of the big bang. We're going to change everything all at once starting now.
Right.
And I think you need a business case to justify it. It has to be backed up by numbers. So Cone Communication says organizations with highly engaged employees have a 2.3 times higher revenue growth than organizations that have a lower level of employee engagement. So now I have a financial metric. If I can boost engagement, I can generate revenue.
Right.
Using that, I would argue you'll boost engagement if you're more agile, if you're more innovative, if people are more involved in the process, if it's more collaborative.
Yes.
So go to management and say, hey, let's try this with a project team, a department, a division. Let it kind of grow organically. Because if it works, what if it works? That team's going to be successful. And other teams are going to be like, what are they doing over there? You've got FOMO, fear of missing out.
Right.
Can we sign up next? Can we be the next trial for that? And you're going to screw up along the way, which is why you don't want to roll it out to the whole company at once. You want to start small, learn from it, and then just let it grow and grow and grow. And then eventually it'll take off. Yeah. But I think culture change, it's like they always say, you can't turn a cruise ship on a dime.
No.
Changing culture is going to be a slow process, but start with a small team. The Buddha says a jug fills drop by drop.
Right.
So every little change you make adds a drop to the jug. In a year, who knows where you'll be?
Yeah. So agility. Let's move on to innovation. Tell us about our business professionals who happen to specialize in human resources, how they can look at innovation in a different way.
First we should just separate creativity from innovation because they're similar. Creativity is all about unique new ideas, which is great, but that's not innovation. Innovation is creative ideas that are also useful. So it can't just be creative, it also has to be useful. And I think in the HR space, we can try to figure out ways to say, okay, how can we be more innovative, which remember is useful creativity. So think about, recruiting as an example. Are you using augmented writing techniques, chat GBT to help you write your job aids? Are you using chatbots so somebody on your website can ask you questions about a job 24/7? Are you using pre-selection tools that may be a little bit outside the typical recruiting funnel that'll help you spot, ideal candidate? So what's your onboarding process like? Is it, think about today, if I want to learn something, where do I go? I go to YouTube. So is your onboarding process one-on-ones with person on a fixed rate schedule that require face-to-face interaction? Or do you also have it augmented with some on-demand videos, some recordings that people can listen to, some podcasts? The same with learning and development. I think the days of sitting in a class room, in a conference room with bagels and cream cheese and a white binder for a week are gone. I think people want to learn at their own pace. They want to access it differently. They want to interact with different things.
Yeah.
I think, again, when I think about continuous performance management, I think there's a space there to be innovative because you're not waiting 6 months or a year to revisit how's it going and what could we do differently. You're in the game. You're right in there. So you can say, okay, hey, wait, that's not working. So let's not continue to do it this way. Let's try something else. And let's try it for just a little bit of what we're doing. And if it works, we'll expand it and make it bigger.
Yeah.
But we won't do too much damage if we just do something new, creative, and innovative to a little subsample of the work we're doing. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. I even think about how we have our message has been for quite some time, and we started this last year, the absolute need to reinvent the manager. So we spent the better part of over a century really curating an atmosphere based on an old model that just generates a lot of boss holes, unfortunately. Not in, sometimes it just, we shove them into the boss hole zone, but we are using an old model where today's workforce requires a different, more, I would say, evolved individual to help develop them and grow. And maybe we need to think about reinventing the manager. But it is like birthing the Queen Mary. It is a very, very slow. It is like the slow process of turning a massive ship. But I love the idea. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let's not reinvent the manager. Part of me wants to get rid of the manager. I know that's heresy, but I think the history of management, if at least take it back to, car assembly lines.
Right.
These were people who told you what to do, how to do it, looked at how much you produced. They really focused on just some end goal,
right?
And compliance,
command and control,
huge.
Right?
I think the difference here, a coach is trying to empower somebody to learn to replace them.
Mm-hmm.
Let them learn how to make the right decisions. Let them learn how to attach what they're doing to the vision of the organization. Just like a coach for a sports team, they may not even be the best at playing that sport, but they know how to help others achieve their best.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what gets in the way, I'm a big fan of a book co-authored by Mahan Khalsa called Business Think. Mm-hmm. They have 7 rules for how to be a better business partner. My first 3 are my favorite. Lose the ego, be humble, and be curious.
Yes.
And I think managers, and I do it, I have them on a Post-it note right in front of me because I forget sometimes.
Sure.
Somebody comes and says, hey, can we do such and such? And my first reaction is, no, tried it before. I've done this for 30 years. That's why I'm the manager. I'm the expert. There's tons of ego in there. Mm-hmm. There's no humility and there's no curiosity. A coach would say, okay, I've heard some of this before, but times change. What do you think? So lose that ego, be humble, then be curious. Sounds great. How would you do that? Mm-hmm. What's different now than what we've done in the before? Could we try it? And I'm a big fan of try it with a small set of whatever it is you're trying to do.
Right.
No one's going to die probably. Maybe you shouldn't do this in healthcare, but in other fields, no one's going to die.
Right.
Try it. You may learn something. Right. So let's not be a manager that focuses on compliance to an existing set of rules. Let's focus on a coach or a leader, even a higher, a more evolved category there.
Right.
And focus on how do we empower folks to get us to our vision quicker and faster.
Yeah. Why, when you were going through those 3 elements, why was I thinking of Ted Lasso? Is it because I am watching the last season, or
I think that's true.
Lose the ego. Well, wait, what was it? Lose the ego.
Lose the ego. Be humble.
Be humble and be curious. Oh my gosh, that is how the character is written. Sorry about that. I just think that's so fascinating, and it's powerful.
Humility, yeah, and it's not thinking of yourself less.
Right.
It's just thinking of yourself less often.
Right.
And it's amazing to me. I think it's a more evolved manager, if we want to use that term, is someone who can say to a team, we need to get this thing done. I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How would you guys do it?
Right.
Or I screwed that up. Right. I think it's that humility that and I think it's someone who's lost ego,
mm-hmm.
who at a leadership meeting can say, "Oh, thanks for the credit, but it actually wasn't me. It was my team."
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I couldn't have done it without them. How many times have you seen your manager go to a training class or a conference? Somehow I feel like when people get promoted, they think, I don't need to learn anymore. They just stop.
Yeah.
Good point.
Very non-bossful behavior. That's right. I mean, I'm sorry.
But I slip into that zone now and then, I think. Everybody does.
No. We do. Sometimes it's sort of an environmental thing. Sometimes we are forced into it. And let's just face it. We are, as Patrick Lencioni says, is that right, Sarah? Messy, fallible human creatures. We are given to those extremes, and it can happen. But just, if we have that grace, or as you said, not thinking about yourself, just not thinking about yourself quite as much as others. I don't think I said that right.
You did.
I didn't say that right.
You did.
And we will be right back.
With employee disengagement at its highest level in 9 years, your company can't afford to miss the mark when it comes to optimizing your hiring, management, and team performance practices. At its lowest level, employee turnover costs you $11,000 per person. And those are dollars you can easily save with the right set of people analytics. Real Good Ventures is a talent optimization consultancy specializing in world-class analytics specific to your people and the critical role they play within your organization. Gain confidence in your hiring practices. Keep the boss holes from driving your talent away. Design your teams for flawless execution and create a culture that offers meaning and fulfillment. Real Good Ventures has a family of validated diagnostic tools specific to the human aspect of business, because we know that all business issues are people issues. Visit us today at www.realgoodventures.com and bring meaning and fulfillment back into your workplace.
Okay, let's get back to the program. But anyway, we have the agility, we have innovation. So let's talk about resilience. A lot of HR people listening in are going, oh yeah, I need some resilience. Help me out, Joe.
I think resilience, there's lots of different definitions out there, but my favorite is it's an organization and its employees' capacity to thrive rather than just survive in a high stress environment.
Sure.
There's so much going on, right? Employees have so many challenges and pressures at work, inside of work, outside of work. And we used to think of it as, well, the best survive. But I think we can do better with that than that. We can equip employees with tools and a mindset that helps them thrive in these stressful situations. And when they thrive, they bounce back faster. When you were in an adverse situation, they recover quicker, they respond quicker. They're less anxious, they handle stress better, they have a lower absence rate, and they have some brain space, if you want to call it that, to be more innovative. So I think how we get there is we have to train managers better to how to handle folks that are in a high pressure situation, how to hold a team together, how to respond to situations a little bit more effectively, how to strengthen relationships with employees. Because again, I think it comes back to that. When you become a manager, you need to think, now you're not responsible for the task as much as you are for the people. So how do we develop programs that help employees become more resilient by having a stronger sense of purpose, or learning problem-solving strategies, or becoming a little bit more optimistic? And I think we can build systems to help reduce the stress at work, or to build that positive workplace culture. And it could be little things. For me, I give a webinar every Thursday at 2:00 Eastern time. And it was just a Thursdays are my absolute crazy, horrible day. And I met with my team and said, I hate Thursdays. I'm dying on Thursdays. And I don't know what to do, because I really didn't know what to do. And it was amazing how the team stepped up and said, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this part. Hey, Joe, do you know there's a tool we could use that does that part? And suddenly this enormous task list that was all on my shoulders, divided up among a group of folks and some tools that all have the same common end goal. And it got better. It got better.
Yeah.
So it lowered the stress and it got better because I went to the team and said, help me here. This is an adverse situation every single Thursday. And we solved it. And there was some innovation, there was some agility and true teamwork, and everybody's really aligned. And I learned a ton, which I went into it with, here's our tasks, very manager, lots of ego, no humility. And look what happens when you got rid of that and you became curious. We also became more resilient.
Yep.
Well, and to have that ability to get vulnerable and be candid with your colleagues and even ask for help does require a person to have self-awareness. And we certainly beat that drum in every episode we have, that self-awareness. And Dr. Tasha Urich, who was recently a guest on the podcast, would say it's two things. It's knowing, what's happening within you, and knowing how you're perceived by other people and what the difference might be between the two, your perception and theirs. But in order to battle the ego, beat the ego down, because it's a part of our functioning. I like that you refer to it quite matter-of-factly, and those who are successful at doing what you're suggesting are the ones who don't let ego take up a lot of space. I think that's a learned skill. Would you agree?
Oh, I think so. And you're learning it. I'm still learning it, and I've tried for 10 years now. That's why I have a post-it
Right.
note with those
Yeah.
rules, because sometimes words leave my mouth and I wish I could pull them back in. Have you ever had that,
Yes.
like the cartoons where you're like, oh God,
Oh,
that was so full of ego. That was so bad.
it's like
Yes.
Apple came out with the ability to pull back a text that you
Yeah.
want to, and I want to do that with statements sometime before anybody hears it. That would be really nice. Something else you said though, Joe, regarding resilience, and it resonates with us. We are proponents of talent optimization. We just happen to use people science to help our clients with talent optimization. But the first step in fighting the number one force of disengagement is job fit. And so often we have people that are, whether it's, from a behavioral or a cognitive perspective, they are just not strongly fit in a particular role. When you solidify job fit with objective data, that creates resilience. I mean, our mission is to help people find meaning and fulfillment in their work. We just happen to do it through people science, but that's what builds that resilience on a team. And let's face it, right now, according to Gallup, we are at a 9-year high on disengagement. Resilience is being challenged right now. Would you agree with that?
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think, at Delphia, when we hire somebody, we like to think of them as being on, we call it the Delphia Clue bus, and we actually have a big metal bus on my desk. We're trying to get the right people that belong on the bus, and we'll put you in a particular seat, but we may find that's not the right seat for you. Hopefully we find another seat for you that fits better. Our goal is to not hire people that we end up saying, we don't want you on the bus at all.
Right.
And my most recent hire, we didn't have a job opening, job title, or job description. We just said, we think you'd be great on the bus. You tell us what you want to do and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be a great decision. But I think using tools like you're talking about, people science, is the way to go to figure out if that's a good fit. You can even start, I would argue, without a tool. If you say, hey, I can't make that leap, sit down with your folks, and I draw 3 circles, the Venn diagrams with the overlapping circles. I think one is needs, one is abilities, and one is talents. And the ideal fit is when all 3 overlap, that little piece of triangle in the middle, because the organization needs that done. You're interested in it and you're good at doing it. And if not, if they're interested, but they don't have the abilities and the organization needs it done, now it's a training opportunity, right? If they don't even know if they're interested, maybe it's why don't you go shadow somebody for a day and see if that floats your boat? See if there is any interest there. And it's just trying to get everybody to migrate to that sweet spot, the overlap between needs, abilities, and interests. And that's another place where a business professional with expertise in HR can make a difference. They can look at that person and say, hey, I think we need to shift the diagram a little bit, because if we move them just a little bit, they'll be happier, they'll be more engaged. And we know from Cone Communications, it's going to increase your bottom line.
Yep.
That's right. And I like that is something the manager, the coach, the leadership can take responsibility for. Like, we are going to have these conversations. We're going to assess people for engagement, for job fit, things like that. Because when we have that data and information, then we can make better and informed decisions. The reason why I think that is incredibly important today is because burnout is real. We are in a unique time that's been marked by, prolonged and pretty traumatic stress for a lot of people. So inside of that, we can't just say, gosh, everybody, do more yoga and learn your breathing techniques and, build a personal resilience plan. Sure. I mean, we all have to do that. But from a system perspective and in terms of the work and the load of stress at work, we have to be intentional. We have to be creative, agile, innovative around designing it differently so people can cope. And resilience is the right word. I think burnout is real, and we're not going to be able to have both.
And I don't think we're trying to build workaholics. I think people think, oh, if somebody's really engaged, they have to be a workaholic. I disagree. That's not the case.
Right.
It's just somebody who really connects with the vision and the mission, and they go that extra mile, but it doesn't mean they have to kill themselves in the process.
Not at all.
Yeah, they're connected with their heart. They're really bringing their whole self to the work, and they enjoy it. And speaking of vision, mission, and values, That's probably a great segue to something else we want to make sure we talk about, right, John?
Yeah. Joe, other than your natural connection to people, you also are in the world of technology. So I'd love for you, as we wrap this up, just to share with our listeners about Maviva. Okay, so if I may, and again, mission, vision, and values, that's how you got the name Maviva, correct?
Yeah.
Love that. It is a continuous performance management application. You built the original or started doing it 6 years ago. Just give us a glimpse into the origin story, the inspiration, and you got some exciting news of its development coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So, although some people think Maviva sounds like Maviva, ask your doctor what it can do for you. But no, that's not the case.
What are the side effects?
I love that.
Only
good side effects.
The confluence of so many things. I think performance evaluation forms suck. They're awful because they're all about rear view mirror. They're all about feedback. And that's not going to change the results of the game. It's too late. The game's over. So I think there's a problem there. If you talk to managers, they hate them. They're pulling all-nighters trying to remember stuff a year ago to fill out the form. If you talk employees, it doesn't inspire them to do anything differently.
Right.
And if you talk to leadership, the problem with our current performance management systems, and I don't mean software, I just mean the whole system.
Right.
It doesn't actually give results. It's not changing the performance of organizations. So let's consider the performance eval form as an artifact of a process. And the process is continuous performance management. I think it starts with setting goals. And these aren't 1-year goals. These are short goals. And Sherm will tell you goals have to be smarter, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. But when you think about goals, I think you can only measure them 3 ways. They're either milestones, it's a checklist, and some of us have personalities that we love checklists. We'll add items to a checklist that are already done just so we can check them off. We love checklists.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, or it's metric, right? It's a number.
Yeah.
Right.
And numbers, bigger is better, like sales goals. Smaller is better, like OSHA incidents, or ranges are better, like lengths of call. 90% of your calls are within 3 to 5 minutes at a call center. So let's make a tool that makes it easy to capture goals, either metric-based or milestone-based. You can have habits too. That's a longer topic. Let's give you the ability to be realistic. You should be able to add a goal at any time, not just in January or in June when the cycle's up. You ought to be able to pause a goal, restart a goal, cancel a goal. You ought to be able to say who contributes to that goal. And I want to see results. I want to click on a page or a tool and say, where am I right now? If it's a metric-based goal with a dial, show me the dial. Where is it spinning? And when a manager meets with someone, don't just say typical one-on-one, hey, John, how's it going? Good. Me too. Good. Did you have a good week? Yep. Things okay at work? Yep. Good. Okay, we're done. Let's bring up your goals, sorted in a priority timelines fashion, and use that to structure the conversation. If every goal has a page, similar to every person has a page on Facebook or every restaurant has a page on Yelp, let me put my notes right in on that page. Let me attach things on that page. And when I make notes or you make notes, let's slide a little button that says, roll that over into a performance artifact. So now notes that I've taken throughout the year as I've coached to change the outcome of the game, it gives me the output I need in an artifact that says, here was your goal. Here's, what number you hit if it was metric based. Here's my comments. It makes it more front and center. And I think it can change an organization's overall performance. I loathe team meetings where the agenda is the seating chart. Because you sat in the first chair. Okay, Sarah, you go first. What's new? Okay, John, then no. Let's run a team meeting based on what's the hottest topic right now, based on the goals for the whole team.
That's right. Yeah, that's
so great. When you talk to managers, hated the forms and people hated the forms and businesses weren't actually getting any more performance. It all came down to me to goal setting. And I think with good goal setting, employees are more engaged. We all like to know the rules of the game. We all like to know what you expect of me. And the worst thing is a performance review that goes bad. I would argue the system was bad.
Yes.
You didn't know what you were supposed to get done. You didn't know how you were doing along the way. And then it's a surprise when I tell you you were awful.
Right.
So let's eliminate all that. And the problem is we have to start all the way at the other end by setting clear goals with folks in a collaborative environment making it very easy to track. People don't adopt systems if they're hard to use.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be easy to use, as easy as Facebook or Yelp or TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just click on something. I don't need a training class to know where to type, and off we go. So that was really the beginnings of Maviva. And we've had it deployed now with several companies. We've gotten feedback from that. And the beginning of June here, we're announcing Maviva 4.0 on a brand new platform, mobile friendly, continuous performance management, setting goals, tracking goals, live metrics from other systems if you want to connect it to that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just super excited. And we're even doing free trials of it at maviva.com.
Nice.
Well, we'll put that in the show notes for sure. We might, and I mean, I'm looking at the site right now, and again, when you think about creating a better experience, something that's truly interactive and collaborative, but I think there's something really profound in what you said, Joe. You said, you're telling me what the rules of the game are, but if you don't feel like you're an actual participant in the game, and yet you have to suffer the repercussions of something I didn't even know I was supposed to be focusing on that. This is designed to truly create engagement around goals, that you are an active participant at every level and you are working on them, which is just evident in the way you've built this out.
Started organically. Use it with a project team or a group or department. You don't have to do it for the whole company.
Right.
And the other thing I like is goals can have, we call it visibility. So it's basically permission. So if someone's on a performance improvement plan, those goals are going to be private between them and their manager and maybe HR. But let's say you had a public goal, and that public goal was to, do something that may involve other people in the organization. Well, if I worked with you, and I normally don't work with you, you're not in my department, you're not even in my chain of command. If you rocked my world, I can go find your page on Maviva, see all your public goals, see one that has to do with whatever I did with you, and I can leave a comment. It's like Yelp, except it's not anonymous. So why are we worried about 360-degree feedback? How about feedback from anyone I cross in the organization who's publicly willing to put their name on it and say, I want to say something good or bad. And I'm going to see it, and my manager is going to see it. So let's make it a lot more transparent, this whole getting feedback or comments, if you want to call it that. So the inspiration there came from Yelp. I thought, I can review any restaurant I've been to. The bad side is it's anonymous. Why not for employees? Let anybody comment, but it's not anonymous. So you better be telling me the truth.
That's right.
Right. No, that's awesome. Well,
I think,
go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I was going to say, what I like most about the approach is the opportunity to keep front and center the things that we have determined are most important, because our default way of operating and the chaos in our organizations and the things that tend to pop up every day that we would defer to instead of what we said was most important. Now we have a mechanism that enables a manager and a leader or even a direct report to stay focused on that and to keep that conversation front and center. And it doesn't require a lot of brain space. I love Patrick Lencioni's approach, like red, green, or yellow. I think it's Alan Mulally did that at Ford. Is it a red? Is it a green? Is it a yellow? If it's a green, great. If it's a yellow, what do you need to add in? What are you not doing you should be or could be? And if it's a red, what's the block? And these are opportunities to expedite process and expedite the feeling of accomplishment and results.
And I love your visual interpretation, because in Maviva, we actually let you set, if it's a quantitative, a numeric goal, you can say on my gauge between these values should be green, these values yellow, these values red. If it's a milestone goal, you can say if I've hit this many, use this icon, thumbs up, thumbs down, happy face, sad face. So it's very visual. I can look and say, I can see exactly how I'm doing on my dashboard. And so can my manager. And so can folks up the food chain.
Absolutely.
Because the transparent is a big complaint about the performance review process in many organizations. Kind of mysterious.
Well, I don't think it matters what generation you're from. We might all interface with the process a little bit differently, but this, in my opinion, would speak directly to Gen Z, Gen Y, and the people who find, that kind of engagement and that real-time opportunity to understand and know and get the results or the feedback to be incredibly important and valuable. Like if they aren't growing, if we aren't getting there, they lose interest. They may, in fact, want to work somewhere else. Not to oversimplify, but this is great.
But that's true. And getting to a point where people are valuable, truly human resource people, never have to, are able to answer the question, how are you doing right now? When it comes to your work today, how are you doing? And being able to point to something and say, this is how I'm doing, and I have something that helps to support that. Probably.
I think everybody likes to know that. Everybody likes to know, am I okay? And especially in a world of lots of change, you want to know, am I okay? Are we okay? I mean, think about it in terms of relationships. How many times, do you hear one person tells their partner, do you love me? Do you still love me? It's that reassurance. You want to know, are we okay? Am I okay?
Yes. Yep. Yes. And I don't think it matters what your Myers-Briggs or PI type is. It's a human need to know that you're fitting in, you're accomplishing, and you're valued. Good stuff.
Joe, this has been great. I'm so thrilled. This has been a while in the planning to get you on the podcast. And no, you're very busy and we haven't been able to make this work, but I know that everybody out in the Boss Hole Transformation Nation will take a lot away from this. I want to remind our listeners, go to the show notes. Joe's contact information, his LinkedIn contact, will put information on Delphia, on Maviva. Go check it out, because these are things that are going to move us in the right direction when it comes to the human presence in organizations and what we need to do to celebrate these wonderful people that are around us. But Joe, this is great. And best of everything with it's not a launch, it's just the upgrade, or what is it?
Well, going from 3 to 4 was a huge change for us architecturally and feature-wise and everything. So I'm thinking of it as a launch.
It's
an excuse to have another party.
There you go. That's right. Well, everybody, make sure you check out all the notes. Joe, thanks so much. It was great having you, and I'll probably see you at the next HRACO meeting.
I'll be there, or Sure Manual.
That's true. Sure. Everybody, thanks for listening to the Boss Hole Chronicles. We'd like to thank our guests today on the Boss Hole Chronicles. And if you have a Boss Hole Chronicles story of your own, please email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Once again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you again soon.